All right, I call this meeting to order. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Here.
Present. Dr. Gabriel, you're on mute.
Miss Tanner's actually on mute, but I'm present.
Yeah, you are on mute as well.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm present.
Oh, I can hear you. Awesome. Jordan? Rousen?
Here.
Martin?
Present. Okay. The first order of business is to decide whether we want Dr. Birdsong to join us in our meeting today. Mr. Cloud?
Dr. Gabriel is requesting to participate in today's meeting electronically. Pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act and your board policy BDD, Dr. Gabriel, as I understand it, your request is because of a medical condition, is that correct?
Yes, that is.
And where will you be participating from? Where are you physically right now?
I'm physically at my home.
All right, with that, the board needs to vote on whether to allow Dr. Gabriel to participate in today's meeting. If the clerk will call the roll, it'll be a roll call vote. And each member, a vote of yes will mean yes, that she is allowed to participate.
Okay. Ms. Tanner, go ahead and call the roll.
Aye. Ampson? Clanton?
Aye.
Jordan? Rousen?
Yes.
And Martin?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to ask for a motion to go into closed session, please.
Dr. Martin, I move that we enter an executive closed session.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Campson.
That members of the school board go into a closed session for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the school board of the city of Norfolk pursuant to subsection 1 of the Act. The subject of this portion of the session is the discussion of the specific personnel on today's regular personnel agenda. Discussion or consideration of disciplinary and any other matters concerning students in Norfolk Public Schools that would involve the disclosure of information contained in the scholastic record pursuant to subsection A2 of the Act. The subject of this portion of the session is discussion of specific students on today's regular student support agenda, consultation with legal counsel, and briefing by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where discussion in open session would adversely affect the school board's negotiating or litigating posture, or consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsections A, 7, and 8 of the Act. The subjects of this portion of the session are those set out above in subsections A and B of this motion, to the extent they raise issues concerning actual or probable litigation or requiring advice of counsel and advice of counsel regarding the legal issues raised by Governor Youngkin's new Executive Order Number 2. Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan? Rousen?
Aye.
And Martin?
Aye. Okay, with that, then we'll pause this session and go into executive meeting. So don't shut it down. Okay.
Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Whereas the School Board of the City of Norfolk has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the School Board of the City of Norfolk that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be resolved that the School Board of the City of Norfolk hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the executive meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the executive meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the School Board of the City of Norfolk. Basine?
Aye.
Campson? Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan? Rousen?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay, just, before we go into the business, would anyone like 5 minutes break? Does anyone want a 5 minute break before we start this meeting? Okay. All right. So, with that, I'm gonna begin the business meeting portion. So we are officially in the meeting. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Here.
Campson?
Here.
Clanton?
Here.
Gabriel?
Present.
Jordan?
Here.
Rousen?
Here.
Martin?
Present. Okay, thank you. So I'd like to begin by getting a motion to amend our agenda to add a statement. I'd like to I'd like to amend the agenda to add our statement regarding our COVID protocols. Can I get a motion?
Madam Chair. Okay. Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'd like to amend the agenda by adding 3.03 and by stating it as board action related to COVID-19 mitigation strategies.
Second.
Got to take a vote.
Okay. Basine?
Aye.
Campson? Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan? Rousen?
Aye.
And Martin?
Aye.
So we have received several inquiries about Governor Young's pertaining to the removal of the mandate to wear masks. As we have stated on a number of occasions, it is a top priority for Norfolk Public Schools to provide a safe learning and work environment. We will continue to follow mask wearing along with other COVID safety protocols as recommended by the Center for Disease Control and the Virginia and Norfolk Departments of Health. Should you need clarity around our COVID protocols, please visit the Norfolk Public School website and social media accounts, or you can ask your school administrators. On behalf of the Norfolk Public School Board, we direct our Superintendent, Dr. Birdsong, to continue to adhere to our existing health and safety protocols, as outlined in the Norfolk Public School Health Mitigation Plan, which requires
it includes a requirement for all individuals to wear a mask while on school buses and within our schools and division-wide facilities. Can I get a motion to accept this directive?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the directive.
Thank you, Mr. Clanton. Can I get a second?
I second.
Who's that? Ms. Basine, seconded? Ms. Tanner, please call the question.
Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan? Rousen?
Aye.
And Martin?
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, everyone. So, up next on our agenda, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Kama Johnson, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the
To the flag
flag
of
and
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Johnson.
you. You may be seated.
Up next, we have a student performance from our Granby Elementary School first graders.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Martin, Vice Chair Mr. Clanton, school board members, Dr. Birdsong, administration, and guests. My name is Zach Rooksby, and I'm the Senior Coordinator of Music for Norfolk Public Schools. Tonight, we are featuring students from Granby Elementary School's first grade under the direction of Mrs. Kathy Swaim. They'll be performing Pinata by Teresa Jennings. In January and February, fifth grade students, along with middle school and high school students, will be selecting their courses for the next upcoming school year. All students have the opportunity to select music classes that further explore reading, performing, and producing music. Whether playing an instrument in band or orchestra class, or singing in chorus class, it is our goal for all students to find a pathway to explore music. Studying music has benefits for students of all abilities and skill levels. It simultaneously engages students emotionally, socially, and intellectually, and reinforces soft skills such as collaboration, critical thinking, and perseverance, which are sought-after skills in all career paths and job fields. Students choosing music will be cared for by our outstanding faculty and music teachers, such as Mrs. Swaim. She exemplifies the type of knowledge and passion that our music teachers share with their students at Norfolk Public Schools. Thank you once again for taking your time to feature the talents of our music students.
You know you want
that wonderful performance. I know Granby Elementary School is very proud of their music and arts program, and it's just wonderful to see the children with the celebrate other cultures and come together. It looks like they're having a really great time as well. So I appreciate that. All right. So next up on our agenda, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. Birdsong.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair Martin, Vice Chairman Clanton, members of the school board, and members of our community. Before we share with you some of the amazing accomplishments of our students and what they've been able to achieve that we've captured on my superintendent's video report, I would like to take an opportunity to share a brief update with you regarding the operations of our schools. First and foremost, I must recognize our building principals for their steadfast leadership and for always going above and beyond to find innovative ways to ensure high quality in-person instruction for our students. As you are aware, the administration of Norfolk Public Schools has strategically utilized the CDC's guidance for COVID-19 prevention in K-12 schools throughout this pandemic. And perhaps one of the key pieces of the CDC's guidance is the assertion that, and I quote, students benefit from in-person learning and safely returning to in-person instruction continues to be a priority. Our highly skilled principals have demonstrated that. Additionally, I must recognize our extraordinary teachers. I've said this time and time again. No one cares more for the children than the teachers of Norfolk Public Schools. Each and every day, our teachers show up. They show up for our children, and they ensure that they engage them in high quality, meaningful instruction, in addition to taking care of the many other needs that our children may have. Our teachers continue to be our heroes. In the midst of teaching, they continue to follow the school division's mitigation strategies to keep our students safe and healthy. Our teachers can be observed at any moment during the instructional day, ensuring that our students wear their masks properly, reminding our students to practice physical distancing, and ensuring that our students are keeping their hands washed and sanitized. This is what they do every day for our kids. The contact tracing efforts of our nurses, it's absolutely astounding. The CDC has provided guidance around contact tracing in combination with quarantine and isolation as an important layer of prevention to keep our schools safe. Our nurses, they are following this guidance, and I commend them for their devoted efforts and a job well done. Thank you, school nurses, for all that you do. I know that your jobs have not been easy, especially since we've returned to in-person instruction, but I applaud you and your dedication to high-quality healthcare. These are just a few examples of what we're doing to maintain a safe and healthy instructional environment for our students. Our mitigation strategies, they're being followed, and we are pleased that we can continue to open our schools for in-person instruction at this time. And I certainly would be remiss if I did not recognize our staff for all that they do to keep our students safe while they're in school. Our building custodians continue to ensure that our schools and facilities are clean and sanitized. Our bus drivers, who make the first and last contact with our students on a daily basis, are safely transporting our students to and from school, and they're doing so with a smile. And certainly, I cannot thank our school nutrition staff enough for the nutritious meals that they prepare and the innovative ways that they continue to provide meals to our students, even during the weekends. Please know that it takes the whole village to do the work that is being done for the children in Norfolk Public Schools during this pandemic. There's not one employee group who should not be recognized this evening for the amazing job of keeping our schools open for in-person instruction. And I commend each and every NPS employee for their contribution in sustaining instructional environments within Norfolk Public Schools that are safe, nurturing, and conducive to high-quality teaching and learning. Additionally, in alignment with the CDC's guidance to promote vaccination to help schools safely return to in-person learning, as well as extracurricular activities and sports, Norfolk Public Schools will continue to host vaccination clinics. The administration is currently working with our colleagues from the Norfolk Department of Public Health to schedule additional events. This past Friday, we disseminated a special edition of our NPS News Now newsletters to our families. If you have not had a chance to read it, you can find this newsletter on our website. This newsletter provides a reminder checklist of COVID-19 symptoms for our parents so they can keep their children home when they are exhibiting these symptoms. Additionally, the newsletter provides updated information from the CDC regarding new guidance around K-12 quarantine and isolation. There are also sections within the newsletter that address continuity of learning for quarantine students, testing for COVID-19, vaccinations for children, and information regarding the school division's health mitigation strategies. So if you have not read this newsletter, I strongly advise you to do so. We here in Norfolk Public Schools, we are committed to providing high quality teaching and learning experiences and keeping our schools open for in-person instruction as long as we are able to do so safely. And we will continue to keep you posted on how things are progressing. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Channel 47 team so that they can share with you my video report, which presents some of the amazing experiences our students have had over the past several weeks.
Students at Booker T. Washington High School are taking music production to another level with their new sound production class. This unique course, which is only available through Booker T's Academy of Visual and Performing Arts, teaches students how to produce and compose music tracks using digital recording software in various genres, such as hip-hop, R&B, country, rock, and reggae.
Well, what I learned is how everyone's been working together overall and how these beats can come together. Like overall, I'm been hearing different kinds of sounds, different kinds of flows and stuff like that. It was pretty fun. And the fact that I can now experiment with that is pretty fun.
I think it's important so we can make music, and music saves lives. Like people have been depressed and stuff, and then music helps them. If you're having a bad day, you could just come in here and just relax and listen to music and make music, and it's fun.
When I came up, we didn't have anything like this. So this is an opportunity for them to take advantage of, to have actually a music production class in high school. This is unreal. So hopefully they're going to take advantage of this, and maybe they can be a music producer one day, hopefully.
First grade students in Sabrina Wahid's class at Richard Bowling Elementary spend their days learning while they're moving in their dynamic seats. Ms. Wahid, who is also the district's current Teacher of the Year, obtained these unique seats during the pandemic through online donations. During the day, her students enjoy using pedal desks, ball chairs, wobble stools, and other dynamic seating, which enables them to move around and focus on their classwork.
When you have a student that can't sit still all day, that could be viewed as misbehavior, when really that student just needs a way to release their energy. So having this dynamic seating keeps my students engaged because it gives them an opportunity to release spurts of energy. I hope that my students enjoy coming to class every day. I hope that they are comfortable learning, and I hope that they learn more and are more engaged because they are getting their energy out while they're working. They're not focusing on sitting still instead of focusing on my lesson.
Norfolk Public Schools is working with Vector Solutions to make reporting bullying, safety concerns, and even kudos easy through an online app. Students, parents, and staff members can now anonymously send tips through a free phone app that's available through the Apple Store or Google Play.
Each and every tip that's made using the Vector Safe Schools alert system will be investigated completely. But the beauty of this is that we are able to receive those tips 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So whenever a student feels that there is the necessity to report a concern, they have this at their fingertips. We feel this is a really, really good way for our administrators and our school counselors and others involved in protecting student safety to be able to do even a greater job in responding to the needs of students, because the same way that we will be receiving the communication through those technological means, we will also be sharing that information in the same ways with those schools, and so they'll be able to respond even more quickly to address student needs.
It is going to be great and excellent additional resource, an excellent additional tool to be added not only to the school counselors tool belt, but also to the community, to the parents, as well as the students. So it's going to be great for everyone. It's a win-win situation for everyone.
I just think that we're moving into where our kids are now. You know, that was fine back then when they could use the phone or the email. But now to be able to have it right there on their devices, I'm just excited about that. And I think that, you know, parents, people in the community, anyone can download it and use it. So I think it's going to be great.
As our schools are trying to navigate through these challenging times, our student athletes are doing some impressive things on the field. Let's take a look at some highlights of this past fall season. In cross country, Maury's Lily Gwynn won the Class 5 Region B title with a time of 19 minutes, 38 seconds. Gwynn's teammate Haley McMurdy finished third. Norview's Cassidy Fernandez became the school's first ever runner to qualify for the state meet, came in second. Maury's girls also took home the regional title as well. In the state meet, Gwynn placed third and the team finished eighth. Granby's Ryan Harris was also a regional winner as the senior won in a time of 17 minutes, 28 seconds. He helped spearhead the Comets to a second place finish in the team competition. Also on the boys' side, Cameron Sadur of Maury placed third. In football, 4 of our 5 high schools made it to the playoffs, with Norview and Lake Taylor going in at Class 5 and Class 3, respectively. Booker T. Washington had an impressive season as the Bookers won their first playoff game since 2014 as they advanced to the second round in the Class 3 regionals. Maury finished a dominant season with a record of 9-2. The Commodores were district and regional champs and made it to the Class 5 state championship game for the second time in 3 years. Congrats to Granby and Maury for making the Class 5 Region B volleyball finals for both boys and girls in all Norfolk affair. Maury swept both matches to win the region, as all 4 teams advanced to the state tournament. Maury and Granby's field hockey teams made it to the playoffs, and Maury's cheer competition team placed 6th in the state. Middle schools completed their first fall season since 2019. Congrats to Blair for winning the football title. Lakewood took home the girls' soccer title, and Northside were the champions of softball.
Dr. Martin, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Birdsong, and congratulations to our athletics department and all of the students who participated. I'm always so proud of the accomplishments that Norfolk Public Schools that they achieved during in their athletics. I mean, it just shows like we have stellar academic program, and also that like these kids can really shine with all these wonderful programs, particularly that they're being done through the pandemic and been very well managed and done safely. So I'm just really proud of them. And I was actually at a couple of those, so that was a good time. All right, so next on our list, we have the school board clerk's report. Ms. Tanner, can you go ahead?
Yes, Madam Chair. The clerk's report notes the following observance for January with National Mentoring Month that focuses national attention on the needs for mentors, as well as how each of us, individuals, businesses, government agencies, schools, faith communities, and nonprofits can work together to increase the number of mentors to help ensure positive outcomes for our young people. And this concludes the clerk's report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tanner. Okay, up next we have our citizens' comments on agenda and non-agenda items. Ms. Tanner, how many people have signed up?
For tonight's citizens' comments on agenda items and non-agenda items, we have 3 speakers. For tonight's public comments, speakers have 3 minutes to provide public comments. A timer will alarm to signal the conclusion of your remarks. As a reminder, board members do not respond to public comments during this time. You are welcome to provide a copy of your remarks to the school board to share to the school board clerk, to share with the board. You may also email your comments to schoolboard@nps.k12.va.us. And Madam Chair, our first speaker for today for agenda items only and non-agenda items is Shanice Claiborne, followed by Benita Varney LaChance.
Okay, please approach the podium. And you can start whenever you're ready.
Put my best foot forward, and I work hard with my students. And of course, with all the COVID going around and stuff like that, we have to still focus on the students, and we have a job to do. And I go in the classroom without fear, because right now in society, there's a lot of fear being pushed with the COVID, but nonetheless, I go in the classroom and, I do what I'm supposed to do with my students, and I care for them. And I do believe putting the pressure of having teachers, do the weekly testing is beyond stressful. By the time I leave the classroom, writing IEPs, trying to locate testing is very difficult. Military Circle Mall is wrapped around the building. It's very stressful. So I do believe, hand washing, mask wearing, just reminding students to keep their mask on, nutritious, eating, that will be enough during this time, since the CDC and all of these outlets that we get our information from to make a decision whether to be vaccinated, not to vaccinate, whether to do different things, I believe is in the best interest for the teachers and for the students to be able to, come into the classroom not having to worry about all of those fears. It's discrimination if you only have one group of people that's maybe unvaccinated going through weekly testing, when anyone can, contract this virus, spread it. It's best that we all continue what we're doing without that mandate. It's very beyond stressful, finding testing and feeling like you have your job on the line. I believe right now we're at 85% of the Norfolk Public Schools is vaccinated. I do believe that's a high amount for this is not to be a great concern right now, since our information and the viruses and different things continue to change on a daily basis. So that's all I really have to say. I hope that this is taken in consideration. As a mother, as a teacher, I truly care about everybody's health, and I do my best to, if I'm sick, I will stay away. I won't come to work. I will let you know. I'll, take precautions to try to make sure everybody's healthy, and I do the best that I can do. And that's all I have to say. I'm speaking on behalf of me and all of the other teachers that may not be vaccinated at this moment. So I do thank you for your time. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hold on 1 second.
Ms. Tanner, who's next?
I'm trying to reset it. Rich did a new clock. Rich, I'm gonna need you to reset this. Okay, here we go. Okay, Benita Varney LaChance, followed by Thomas Calhoun.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm here under the support of the Norfolk Federation of Teachers, and I'm supported here tonight by Mr. Calhoun and Mrs. Skinner, and they encouraged me to come forward. I'm an adaptive physical education teacher specialist. I've been employed here in Norfolk since September 2nd. I love working with kids. I love going out into the schools. The teachers I've met, the paraprofessionals I met are the finest group of people, among the finest group of people I've ever worked with.
If I am employed here at the end of the month, it will be a miracle. I definitely won't be employed here at the end of the year because I simply cannot take what I feel to be abuse at the hands of the administration from learning support. It's affecting my health. It's affecting my ability to open an email without terror running through my soul. And I'm going to let Mr. Calhoun tell you the rest of my story. But I want you to know I've been a teacher for 30 years. 30 years. This would be my 31st year. And this is the first and only time in my storied career that I've ever been treated like this. We're a military family, proud military family, so we move a lot. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your consideration, and I thank you for listening to Mr. Calhoun.
Thank you.
Mr. Calhoun?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before you begin, if you need to move the lectern up so that we can hear you in the microphone.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? That good? Okay. Speak. Can you hear? Okay. I was just looking at something I don't think I've seen before. It's disciplinary action, letter of reprimand, advisement from Human Resources and Norfolk City Attorney's Office. Y'all consulting the city attorney when y'all write us up now? Ms. LaChance was given a reprimand for spending too much time with her special needs students. I gave you all a copy of the reprimand you have in front of you. She was told that she was spending too much time in crossword school exceeding the IEP. So for that, I guess the city attorney and human resources told Dr. Walters and Ms. Powson to write her up. So they gave her a reprimand and said, you over-service those children. I'm just wondering, Superintendent Birdsong, when y'all pull the special ed parents away from the kids so they can hold regular ed classes, who get a reprimand then? When you pull the special ed teachers to hold regular ed classes, who gets the reprimand then? Because you certainly do it. I get the calls every day. You, the human resources, city, y'all write her up because she over-serviced some children? I wonder what the parents at Crossroads would think of that. She over-serviced the special needs kids. She get a reprimand. You pull the teachers in peril, and that's fine. What's wrong with that picture? What are y'all doing? When she called me, I didn't believe it. Last time I spoke on this. Every time I come and speak on it, this almost wastes of time. No one follows this. So you went to the city attorney. The city attorney said, okay, you don't need no oral warning. You don't need no letter of concern. That's a reprimand. The city attorney told y'all that. Mr. Billups, not this. She ain't never heard of it. We told her the page to look on, everything. Just like I said last time, Superintendent, none of your administrators bother to read this. Mr. Billups, I don't know why we spend 2 days every 2 years on it, because nobody reads it. She said to us when we called and told about it, I got to call Human Resources. Did you call Human Resources before you wrote this ridiculous reprimand? What's wrong with Dr. Walters? She needs some work to do? This is ridiculous. You write this lady up 30 years for over-servicing some special ed needs while you pull the parents and special ed teachers from the students. Superintendent, you can't protect my members from these kind of administrators, and this doesn't work either, then we have to protect ourselves. We're going to start coming here every month. If this is the way y'all feel about the city attorneys, which way you treat us, we'll come every month. We'll tell everything go on in this school.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this concludes our speakers for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tanner. All right. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jordan?
A couple questions. One, I did ask if I could pull the personnel report out.
You wanted to pull which report?
The personnel report. But I also just want a clarification for 4.04 and 4.05, there are no documents attached. So with 4.4, the postpone the vaccination mandate deadline, are we recommending, or is the recommendation now to delay all of it, or we were just looking at flexibility in terms of the testing piece of it?
I think the test in our work session, the original deadline was Monday,
January 3rd. And so we're looking to postpone to the vaccine and testing mandate to February 9th.
So that's everything?
Yeah.
Okay. And then can we also just add the final version of the employee leave policy that we're voting on here with the consent agenda?
I'm sorry, I'm really having trouble. There's a typo that is, I'm so sorry. Can you speak up, please?
For 4.05, I know we had the 2 readings for the leave policy and we're prepared to support it, which I supported, but it's not listed here. I'm asking, can we just add it to the consent agenda so it's clear on what we're voting on there? On board docs, the file is not there.
The policy is not attached on board docs?
It's not on mine. That's why I didn't know if it was just mine or not.
It's not there.
I mean, I support it. I just want to make sure we attach it.
Ms. Tanner, can you please attach policy GCBDZ on employee leave? This was the second reading. Can you please attach it on board docs? Sorry that I overlooked that.
Thank you.
And then you had your second request, or you just had that question and
Personnel report separate.
And you want to remove the personnel report. Can I get a motion to remove the personnel report to be voted on separately?
I don't think you have motion.
What's that?
He's not going to consent to it. So, Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the amended consent agenda minus the personnel report.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Tanner?
Just one moment, please.
Okay.
Basine? Aye. Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Rowson?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay. Okay. Can I now get a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended?
We've already done that.
Oh, sorry.
So, Madam Chair, I move that we accept the personnel report.
As amended. Oh, the personnel report, sorry. Okay, can I get a second? Thank you, Ms. Campson. Go ahead, Ms. Tanner.
Madam Chair, I move that we also limit debate to 3 minutes.
Okay. Can I get
Is there any discussion on
any
that?
discussion on limiting the debate to 3 minutes? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Tanner.
Basine?
Aye.
Campson? Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Nay.
Rousen?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay,
So may I ask my question now?
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my question was simply, I was looking at the classroom teacher vacancy reports that we received, and as part of our personnel docket, when I was looking, I went back and looked at the September 2021 report, and then I also looked at the report for January. And while it's not necessarily one-for-one position-wise, we are seeing in many of our schools increases in vacancies. In particular, at Southside STEM Academy, it looks to me that the number of vacancies have increased. And also at Lake Taylor High School. And I just want to know if there's anything that we can do as a board and supporting the administration so that these double-digit vacancies at those two schools, but generally speaking, at many of our most challenged schools, we're seeing these continuing vacancies, many of them in core subject matter. Recruiting teachers, or when we're dealing with a personnel docket, is there some way that we can provide some type of balance or support so that we don't continue to see these level of vacancies at some of our most challenged schools? So I know oftentimes in September, when we have student counts, we may move staff around. Is there anything that we can do to better address these vacancies at these particular schools, but also some of the schools we're seeing an increase in vacancies?
I can't. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So I would say generally, certainly we don't want our teachers or other staff members to resign from their positions during the school year. However, that happens, and the majority of times it's out of our control. I'm not sure what the board can do except, ensure that we are providing a school division, we are providing an atmosphere, an environment for teaching and learning that's conducive to high levels of teaching and learning, and encourage our teachers to stay. Again, I think a lot of what we're seeing lately are things that are out of our control. And so we certainly are working very hard with our school administrators in promoting climates whereby teachers feel supported. We're providing professional development and training for our teachers. We all know that Norfolk Public Schools often serves as a training ground for other school divisions. And so we are certainly willing to do whatever we need to do to retain our teachers, but sometimes it's just out of our control.
Thank you.
I'll call the question. 3 minutes has been expired.
Sorry?
3 minutes has been expired. We delimited debate
I
to 3
can't hear
minutes.
what you're saying.
No, not per person, for discussion. I didn't say per person. I said 3-minute discussion.
You also speak up, please. Just can't hear what you're saying.
You couldn't hear me last time. 3 minutes per person. I didn't say 3 minutes per person. I said 3 minutes
discussion.
So if the board wants to give additional time, then they would have to do that without objection. So it's
Yeah, I feel the same way about. So
I'll yield in the spirit of 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Basine.
Thank you. Along those same lines, my question is not specifically
candidate, obviously, but along the same lines, we have had several employees that have been at 3 months, 4 months, you know, and wanted to support, I support what Mr. Jordan asked, because I do think we need to look at what we are doing, what is in our control, so that we can retain the teachers. A lot of the comments are, you know, they say for personal reasons, but I do think we need to dig a little deeper to find out how we can better support our teachers. You know, look at our practices. Are we really truly doing all that we can, and what the board can do to support the administration going forward? Because it's disheartening to see it, you know, new teachers with just a few months under their belt resigning from the district. So I would like to see what we can do.
This isn't the first time we've seen this. And I think this has come up time and time again. So it's not necessarily unique to the pandemic. But Dr. Bertson, do you have any comments about, I mean, other than what you said?
I don't.
About supporting them and creating a work environment
that's all we can do. Look at individual situations. And I know that when there is a resignation, our staff in the Department of Human Resources, they will probe a little bit deeper to find out what is going on with the individual. If there's something that can be done division-wide, whether it be at a school or some additional supports that we can offer within the division, we are amenable to that. There's a teacher shortage nationally. Why wouldn't we do everything in our power to keep a highly effective teacher in a classroom in front of a child? We certainly wouldn't, you know, want that teacher to walk away from children. We do everything that we can to retain our teachers. And certainly there's always room for improvement. But I do believe that our staff is working hard to do what we can to retain the highly effective teachers that we want to keep in our classrooms in front of our children every day.
Thank you, Dr. Bertson. Okay. So yeah, so where are we at the personnel document? Okay, Ms. Tanner, please call the question to adopt the personnel report.
Basine? Campson? Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan? Rowson?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Let's see.
Dr. Martin, I
Yes.
had previously requested for the facility use to be pulled from the consent for a separate vote.
This facility is.
Point of order. Mr. Jordan asked for the personnel report to be pulled from consent in open meeting. The same should have happened for facilities. Nothing got said. We've just approved it.
What?
I'm sorry.
So the request now would essentially be null
I
and void.
requested it. I requested it earlier, I sent
It
her an
wasn't
email
done
about it.
publicly with the rest of the board. Mr. Jordan just asked for the personnel report to be pulled in meeting.
Okay, I'm not gonna get in an argument.
I'm not arguing. I'm just
Yeah,
stating
but
what
I did
the
send
rules are.
Dr. Martin an
She emailed
email
it, but you did, yeah, you emailed, but you didn't make the motion. So
because I can't even
it is
hear
very,
what you're.
but we already passed it.
Oh,
So is it, do you want to go back and rescind?
We've already approved a consent agenda.
okay. We need to come up with a better when an email is sent requesting, because this has been several times where a request has been made that we then find ourselves in this very moment where we're having the same discussion and confusion around requests that are made. So
I did get
followed
your
the
request
process.
via email, but it needs to be said in a motion at the meeting as well. So I said, thank you for letting me know. But I do need you to make a motion at the meeting.
Okay, and you guys need to make it clear also what you're putting forward. So,
okay, can I ask, point of privilege? What is it over there that keeps echoing? Is that the laptop?
Yeah.
They have a mic out there that's speaking to several part of the broadcast.
Okay. 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 So moving on to the decision discussion agenda, we need, we have our item 5.01, the monthly financial report. Mr. Jenkins, please approach the lectern. How are you doing this evening? Good.
Financial report for the month of December. Am I clear enough? Okay, good.
A little louder.
The December report covers 6 months for the fiscal year that started July 1st. July 1st. During the period, we collected $146.5 million of general fund revenue, which represents 41.3% of our budget. And there we go. So 41.3% of the budget. The previous years, the collections were 37% and 46.5%. On page 3 of the highlights, trouble scrolling. We provide a graph of revenue and spending, and by the end of December, we had spent or encumbered $146.6 million. This is 41% of the $355 million budget. During the previous 2 years, spending for the same period was 41% of the 21 budget and 42% of the fiscal 20 budget. Excuse me. Our spending rate for this year is very similar to the previous 2 years. Page 4 includes 2 graphs, one for revenue and the other for spending for each month of the year. The graphs represent the monthly revenue and spending for the current and 2 previous years. The monthly budget trend is in the green background. There's more available information for you starting on page 5. During the month of December, we had one budget transfer of $50,000. This was to move money from the materials account to the contract services account in the school facilities section of our budget. Included in the financial report are 2 other reports. The first one starts page 15 of your of that report. It's the quarterly grant status report as of December 31st. At that date, we had active grants totaling nearly $150 million. We had spent or encumbered $83 million, leaving $66.5 million available. This was approximately 44%. The grant status report does not include the ESSER 3 or ARPA funds. We anticipate the City Council will consider your supplemental appropriation request later this month. Assuming that request is approved, the ESSER grants or ESSER 3 awards will appear on future reports. The second report is a quarterly donations and gift to school report. During the 3 months ending in December, schools received donations valued at $120,073. Major sources of donations were Donors Choose and We Pay, both online crowdsourcing applications. And we also received donations from community members, local businesses, churches, and nonprofits. Dr. Martin, that concludes my report for December. I'll be happy to answer any questions you would.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Ms. Basine.
Some clarification or, hold on one second, I'm on mute. Can you provide some clarification or explanation for, so there's donations, for water, $5. So can you share a little bit more about, isn't there a minimum for the reporting, or is this just anyone who has donated?
There is no minimum. It's a listing of all awards that are received. There are a few that are quite small, but this is everything that the schools reported to us over the 3-month period. And because of your policy, we ask that the schools report all of the donations. Some of them are small.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Or are we doing each report separately, or? Because I do have a question about the monthly financial report. Can I go ahead?
Are you've completed your report, right? Your presentation?
I have, yes.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Basine.
So the transfer of funds from contract services to HVAC repairs. So that is in addition to what we had already allocated funds toward, or?
Yes.
Okay.
We didn't increase the budget for facilities. We simply moved some from the supplies and materials account to the contract services so that we could issue work orders to vendors to repair companies to fix the units.
The HVAC, okay.
So it didn't change the total budget, just moved it between 2 accounts.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Can I get a motion to adopt the monthly financial report?
I move that we adopt the monthly financial report.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Dr. Ralston seconded.
Aye.
Aye. Landon.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Ralston?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The monthly financial report passes. Okay, up next we have the school resource officer program evaluation that we discussed in our work session. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening.
Go ahead and begin whenever you're ready. Do you have anything to say? No additions? Okay. Any questions?
Well, before, because it's a formal, Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the recommendations that the administration has presented.
Sure, just 1 second. I'm going to interrupt you. We have.
Okay, thank you. So, Madam Chair, pursuant to the requirement of the Virginia Code, Section 22.1-280.23, I move to affirm the current SRO program and contract to continue as they are without amendment.
Can I get a second? Thank you, Ms. Campson.
I have a question.
Yes.
So at the work session, when the topic came up about looking at restorative practices, was there any further discussion, any conversation with the Norfolk Police Department about the restorative practice? Did you all just decide that it didn't warrant any amendment to the MOU? I just didn't see anything related to the restorative practices that we spoke about at the work session.
We did. Mr. Jordan, respectfully, I don't recall that the board directed us in that direction. I remember there being a comment about that, but we didn't get direction from the board to go back to the police department about this specific program. Otherwise, we certainly would have.
I wasn't at the work session, as I understood it. At the work session, we were asked for feedback, and I know at least 3 of the school board members had comments and suggestions around it. So I thought that the administration may go back and look at that and come back with a revision or an update or something to that effect. If going forward, if what we're saying at a work session that we have to take a vote or a poll or something, then I just need to know what the process is. But the reason I asked is because I knew we had an opportunity to have some feedback, and I just didn't know whether or not whether anything had been taken back based upon the work session discussion. But it sounds like no. So thank you.
What we did do, though, was talk about the training that the SROs go through. And so I guess I want to understand how are you defining restorative justice as far as the role of the SRO?
That's a restorative practices.
Yeah, it's restorative practice. And it's the maker of the motion, if I can speak to it, because I think when Mr. Jordan is speaking about those 3, I was one of those 3s. And I think that my comments were about that we have the opportunity on our end in the budget, because the SRO program is funded by the city directly through their budget, that on our budget, and as we're talking about building the budget, that we could direct the superintendent to include additional funding in our budget to put additional programs in there. That's what I had stated. So not that we were directing, and my math is right, 3 on a 7 board isn't a majority or a consent moving in there. So, but I think it was just in general discussion. That's why I am here today, saying that I support moving with the SRO program as we have it here, and as we begin to look at our budget, that we collectively as a board, I think that we were all kind of coalesced around getting some additional funding in the area of restorative practices to support our students.
When I get a chance.
I'm just wondering, how is that pertinent to the SRO contract right now?
I can't.
How is that pertinent to renewing the SRO contract? If we can, I'm putting this out there because I'm trying to understand. There's an SRO role that is a police enforcement role. It's not as like I'm just thinking about all of the legislation and things that have happened over the past couple of years to really help through restorative justice. I'm still kind of looking for a better definition, but I'm just trying to figure out how does that directly relate to the contract with the SROs. Go ahead.
Well, as one of the board members that spoke quite a bit about it, not just last work session, but throughout this whole process, I wouldn't, as it pertains to the contract, to answer your question, I want to see evidence of restorative practices being the first tier of intervention that is taking place.
Can you give me an example?
Well, it is, I mean, right now, I feel like it is data. Like right now, for me, I think having a safe, secure, healthy, and caring learning environment is paramount. And I don't have the evidence in front of me or that was provided to show that an armed officer is needed, whether, even though it's not coming out of our operating budget. That to me is irrelevant. It is, who is it? Do we need an armed officer in our school buildings when the research clearly shows that leads to the school to prison pipeline, that harm reducing restorative practices are more effective at reducing behaviors and preventing the need for the use of armed enforcement in the school building.
So I don't recall. I recall hearing that the climate survey shows there's an overwhelming support of having SROs, and that students feel safer with SROs, and that we haven't had any incidents, negative incidents in our schools from the SRO program. So I'm just trying to understand where you're getting this data, because I don't have the same data as you.
And I'm talking about mounds of national research on the effectiveness of SROs. And to your point, we haven't seen that. As they stated last time, they haven't been recording complaints. Is that correct?
They haven't received complaints.
They hadn't received.
Mr. Mallory clearly stated that all complaints would go through his office, and he had received none.
Right. But we also talked about the need for looking at demographic data from those people that have responded to surveys, which we don't have. So we don't know who perceives SROs to be safe and who does not.
And we already voted on this. Why are we having this discussion?
We haven't voted on the contract
We're voting
yet.
on the evaluation.
But we're having a discussion about this, what we voted on was
to keep the SROs, and we voted to do that.
We haven't voted. That's what we're voting on now. Is the contract
right now?
Evaluation.
She's talking about a year ago.
Requirement evaluation. That's what we're voting on. We've already.
That's not correct.
No.
We're voting on today pursuant to the statute to affirm the program and say whether you're asking that the contract go forward as it's written or be amended. Legally, that's what you have to do today. It's not correctly written, I agree.
Yeah. But right now, based on what I've already shared, I'm not going to be voting in support of continuing the SRO.
Okay, because I mean, I really want to focus on, it seems the most relevant data to focus on is the data that is here in Norfolk and how the program is working in Norfolk. And based on the report we got last week, it seems to be going very well.
Well, if you can show me what that data is, then that shows that it's going very well, then I would like to see it.
I mean, what I'm hearing is 0 complaints is the data that shows that it's going very well, and that we have principals and students who are saying they feel safer in the schools because of our SRO program. Go ahead.
And to be very clear for the record, we did share data. We shared the specific survey data last week when Dr. Gibson and Mr. Mallory presented the information. We did share the data. It was provided to the board before the work session, discussed during the work session, so it was provided.
And yes, and respectfully, I should be clear. I'm not talking about the perceptions of 13 principals. I'm talking about how many incidents result in the juvenile referrals to, sorry, the feedback is getting me turned around, but how many referrals have we had? How many arrests have been made on school property? That all of those things should be included in anything that is presented to us to make that determination. Who is it that having an SRO in the building impacts the most? Are we seeing disproportionality? Those are all things that we need to be looking at. And if you can tell me that we have and point me to it, then I'll be happy to go back and look at it. But right now, I don't have that. And I don't think the survey responses of a few respondents constitutes as enough evidence to continue.
Okay, just as, was there a broader climate survey done? Was there any other data that we didn't receive?
We had the public comments where the general public throughout the city of Norfolk and the region could comment. There were 29 responses in those public comments in the time frame that we allowed. The SROs actually worked in the buildings with the principals, which is why we had their qualitative data as well. So the data that we presented to you is an evaluation of the performance that the SROs are actually doing in the buildings. We have had very few arrests happen in our buildings historically. So you can probably count them on your hand if you thought about them over the last 3 years. That's just not something that occurs in our schools on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Russell.
Yes, and I know on this point, I mentioned also something about restorative practices, and I mentioned it in a scope of consciousness, not necessarily reframing the program, because I knew that your report was the evaluation, but I'm thinking that we can ask for data points and ask questions even after the adoption of the adopted tonight. So as long as we're able to do that, even my colleague Pacina, we have questions. Even if the program is adopted tonight, we still can ask questions and make comments and give relevant consciousness kinds of ideas. But I do understand the whole notion of restorative practices and how it works. But I was definitely mentioning it as a point of consciousness.
I just wanted to.
Mr. Clinton.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. I just wanted to. I guess, are we getting something on a monthly basis? So SROs don't get into student discipline. It's criminal activity, right? And so we get a report as a board that we typically review, which is the pupil personnel report, which in many cases are some of the most, that's kind of the most egregious type of activities. Would many of those things been addressed by an SRO or?
Those things are addressed through our school disciplinary process. If it entails court action, then the school, through the SRO, follows through in filing the court actions. But most of the time, those actions that happen in our tribunals and in reporting to you require our students to go to an alternative site to work through the court system where there are services there to support them and to try to get them back on the right track.
But I'm saying, are we getting any of those particular interactions that would have been raised to the level of an SRO getting involved in it? Would we not see those through that lens at some point on a monthly basis?
That is where you would see them, Mr. Clanton.
So we're in fact getting data
in those monthly reports,
on a
yes.
monthly basis, what the activity is, how the SROs are getting involved. And I think that we've had a couple of situations this year where the SROs had to get involved and the reasons why they had to get involved.
That's
right?
Correct. Yes.
So just want to make it clear again that in that reporting, we are actually seeing a snapshot of how the SROs are involved on a monthly basis.
You are, as you sit through those reports with student support services each month.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
What I was looking to see, and as I interpreted this is an agreement between the school board and the police department. Goals and duties and responsibilities. As Dr. Ralston said about consciousness, I was looking to see whether or not we would have some references to the joint efforts between the school system and the police department around not only the collection of data, but also just the training and support and the collaboration around our working together with restorative practices as part of that agreement. The other thing I want to say is it's not necessarily the case that I don't want this to turn into at least for me, this is not a pro or con in terms of the SRO, but we have incidents like there's a pepper spray incident. And so because we asked questions was how we were able to get information on the pepper spray incident. There was a notice that went out from communications about it. But because we asked follow-up questions, that's what drove us to be able to have an understanding around our policies and things of that type. So I just asked the question because at the work session, I know it came up. I know it's something that the police department had been working on, and to me, the time for us to look at how we integrate those things so that we can collect data and, as Dr. Rowson said, set a spirit of consciousness. This is where you do that. And so I just didn't know whether or not from that discussion last week, whether anything made it back. We are. So I just wanted to put in context my question and why I think there's benefit in having the discussions at the work session. But if we need to start polling so that we're clear, I'm comfortable with that too. I just want to make sure whatever the rules of engagement are, that we are clear on what those are up front.
All right, so discussion is exhausted. Ms. Tanner, please call the question.
Basine?
I'm voting no for the reasons I stated earlier.
Campson?
Yes.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel? Aye. Jordan?
Nay.
Rowson?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda, we have item 5.03, the Valbrun Consulting Group contract update. At our work session, we met with the representatives of the Valbrun Consulting Group. And so we were given the opportunity to ask them some questions. We asked them to go ahead and write up a contract for us, and that was submitted to Mr. Cloud. And so he still needs the opportunity to make amendments to it, but also, actually, Mr. Cloud, would you like to go ahead and discuss where we are with the contract?
Well, your purchasing person is involved, and we are having to follow up on procurement. And then I did, as of late yesterday, receive, at least initially, I think everything I would need to do a contract after the procurement process is done. And I'll, work on that. There may be other things I'll need. We'll see. They provided something that was in the form of an offer that had within it a kind of limited draft contract that will require, I'll have to take that out of that, and it's going to require more work, again, once the procurement process is complete.
So it's not in a format that we can take action on today?
Yes, no, you couldn't take action today because procurement hasn't completed, but it's not in a format, and it does not include all the content that's going to have to go in to your contract. Some of the content, based on what they sent, it looks like I'm going to have to call from an existing contract that was previously procured, because they made references to the scope of work that was included in that contract. So when I do draft something, I'm going to have to add to what they've provided so far in various ways, which may also require me to communicate with them, because as I present something that is not exactly what they've offered, they're going to have to agree to it before it goes to the board for consideration.
Go ahead, Mr. Jordan.
Just a point of clarity, because I was trying to follow the email threads and some of the documents. Where I thought I saw that the consulting group had recommended a certain price point per session, and there was a timetable. I couldn't follow. Was that a suggestion that it's one session per month? Is that what was? Because I saw some figure going around. It looks like it was that number times 6, but I couldn't see any detail in terms of what was actually being proposed around governance training and session. I'm not asking for debate on it. I just wanted to say it wasn't clear to me. And then the other question I had is, if I understand now, because the process requires additional quotes, in essence, what we're doing now is setting, this is in the form of a question, we are setting expectations that we have for governance training, and then we are asking vendors to provide quotes to that set of expectations. So it's not necessarily the case that we know who the provider would be, or are we just saying we know who we want and we're asking others to give us a quote so we can make sure where we are in terms of the cost?
It wouldn't be quotes as such. It looks like, although, it's not entirely clear what the cap on this will be, but I'm assuming that it might be something like $60,000, which would put it well within the small purchasing provisions. And as part of small purchasing, where you don't have to follow the full complicated panoply of putting something out for bid, there is something that allows for you to approach at least 4 other vendors. I don't know the details of that process. Carol Robinson would handle it, your purchasing person, but that is what it is going to be the next step. That it wouldn't necessarily be just price. There would be more details to that they would request from others, and then a final decision, as with all procurement decisions, is based on the lowest responsive and responsible bid that you get, and that'll be something that Carol Robinson will work on and make a recommendation on when she's done.
Yeah, thank you, because I just think it's important that whatever we do, we are clear on what we are asking for and what our expectations are, so that anybody who is responding to some framework. And I just didn't see in the proposals or in the discussion thread where that came across as clear, at least to me. And so I just want to make sure as a board that we are clear on what it is that we are receiving, what it is that we're asking for, and what it is that we're willing to spend. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Campson, go ahead.
I don't know if this is in order or not, so I'll ask. I've had a number of citizens at Civic League meetings that I've been attending, ask a question that had to do with COVID, and since we'd had some COVID discussion, I had mentioned to the superintendent that I would like to ask that question, but I don't. Since I'm seeing, I want to make sure that I'm allowed to.
Is it about the topic right now is the Valdron Consulting Group update?
Oh, well, I was waiting till the end of the meeting for my question, so maybe that wasn't an appropriate decision.
We don't have any open discussion on the agenda.
Okay.
So would you like to amend the agenda for discussion on COVID-related?
If that would get me able to answer the question that people have asked me to ask, I would do that. I'm sorry, my voice is going again. If you would tell me what the procedure is to do that, do I ask for an amendment to, and do I need to do that ahead of time?
Well, you could give me a heads up that you need to do it here in the meeting.
Yeah, I should have.
To amend the agenda to add item, let me pull the agenda back up. What item is that? Do you have it in front of you?
102.
I don't want to do anything that takes us out of order. I just wanted to ask that question.
Okay, well, it's not on the agenda, so.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so with that, I'll say, meeting is adjourned, and everyone have a safe drive home.